Well, hello everyone, and welcome back. We're into our hour of 6. It's the first time zone on the eastern side of the United States. So, featuring in this hour, we've got two different groups that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be featuring a video from Rare New England, and then we will move from that video. We'll hear from Lisa Deck, who is part of the Rare New England team, and we'll hear from them about what they're going on in the rare disease efforts that Rare New England is doing here on the East Coast. And then we're going to hear from Doug Straught, who is a rare disease patient, but he also heads up the Scheuermann's Foundation, or the SD Fund, and talk about Scheuermann's disease. So it should be a really good hour. We're very excited to have Doug live with us here on the East Coast time. And so bear with me for just a moment. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started.
Rare New England's mission is to bring together New England patients, families, and providers touched by rare and complex disorders. We offer educational opportunities, create awareness of available resources, and build foundations for support to improve the patient quality of life. Rare New England offers patient and family support, highlights our region's medical and community resources, connects patients to appropriate national support and advocacy groups, and creates educational opportunities for New England patients and providers to advance care and quality of life for rare disorder patients and their families. Rare New England strives to increase awareness that patients with rare and complex disorders live, work, attend school, and participate in communities across New England. Individually, we may be rare, but together we are a vibrant, strong community with much to offer. Rare New England provides education about issues affecting rare and complex patients and their families to the medical community, the education system, legislators, workplaces, and others. We address such topics as care coordination, ADA and IEP accommodations, medical insurance problems, and more. Annually, during the weeks around Rare Disease Day, Rare New England arranges for patients and our family members to speak to medical audiences at major teaching hospitals, medical schools, and genetic counseling programs around a combination of the following possibilities: the diagnostic journey, living with the disease, coping strategies, challenges in the healthcare and/or educational systems, and others. At each event, the patient presentation is preceded by a brief clinical overview of the disease by a geneticist to ensure that the audience has a medical foundation about the condition discussed. These sessions provide the medical community the chance to see patients with disorders they might not otherwise encounter. This opportunity also makes it more likely that they will recognize such patients in the future. New England is involved in healthcare legislation. These efforts are imperative in creating laws and setting a framework for enforcement. Proper healthcare for all individuals requires strong legislation that paves the way for improved policies. The rare disease community has many supporters active in legislative efforts through state representation, senators, congressmen, advocacy organizations, hospital administrations, patients and caregivers, healthcare workers, healthcare industry, and more. They initiate bills and promote action steps as bills work through committees with the goal of passing votes through the House and Senate to become laws. Although we are fortunate to have those working for us to build a better healthcare system, they cannot do their job alone. For most positive outcomes, our help is needed to spread awareness of the plight of the rare disease community and the need to pass legislation as swiftly as possible. For current rare disease policy issues and actions, please go to our website to learn more. Rare New England hosts an annual conference targeted for patients and families to obtain information about services and resources available to the rare disease community. We believe information empowers all stakeholders, leading them toward improved life quality for patients and families. For the past 6 years, Rare New England has hosted a conference at different locations with different themes around New England, all meant to educate rare disease patients and their families and meet their unmet needs. Each year, Rare New England brings together a group of medical specialists well-versed in the many problems faced by rare disease patients and their families. Through education on medical decision-making, conflict resolution strategies, guided role-playing of difficult care conversations, and more, Rare New England provides patients and caregivers with tools to resolve medical conflicts and avoid harmful care problems. During the COVID era, Rare New England hosted an extremely successful interactive virtual conference, and the same is planned for 2021. Mark your calendar for October 23rd, 2021. Rare New England hosts genetics career fairs to inspire young professionals, including medical students, pediatric and medicine interns and residents, undergraduate and graduate genetics students. The goal of the career fairs is to inspire these young professionals to consider a career in genetics, a very promising and expanding area of medicine, but one with a serious workforce shortage. This shortage is compromising the promising benefits that can come from all of the research and clinical effort underway in this country and around the world. Attendees of these career fairs have an opportunity to hear from 3 different types of geneticists: a clinical or general geneticist, a biochemical geneticist, and a research laboratory industrial geneticist. Speakers typically describe a day in the life of a geneticist. They talk about interesting cases and share their passion for patient care and for contributing to science and the development of new therapies. This is Rare New England's third year conducting genetics career fairs. Rare New England produces a monthly cable show series about rare and complex diseases. The world of rare disease has robust programming that offers information, education, and resources to all stakeholders living and working in the rare disease community. My name is Lisa Deck, and I am a rare disease patient, a Rare New England board member, and the host for the world of rare disease. Our show brings in a variety of experts to discuss a wide range of subjects relating to rare and complex healthcare issues. Potential audiences include patients, families, foundations, medical students, and professionals, geneticists, genetic counselors, trainees, biotech and pharmaceutical companies, community members, and rare disease organizations. We have filmed over 40 shows that have been produced, and all can be found on the Rare New England YouTube page. New this year, some of our episodes are featured on the Disordered Cable channel. We've also started hosting Facebook Live screenings, followed by questions and answers with the show's guests. The world of rare disease has something for all members of the rare community. Rare New England knows that the key to success in the rare disease community is collaboration. We are proud to work with a variety of patient organizations, groups, conferences, and events.
All right. Well, thank you, Lisa from Rare New England, and all the Rare New England folks who contributed with video. It was awesome to hear from them again. We know have worked with Rare New England for a couple of years now. So now I want to take a moment and I want to introduce Doug Trout. And Doug has been, his experience, he's been in the financial services industry for, was his last job, for over 25 years. And he was a dimensional fund advisor in Austin, Texas. But however, long-term secondary effects on Scheuermann's disease forced him into disability, but allowed him to follow a different path. Mr. Strout has endured multiple spine fusion surgeries from the spinal deformity, and during this time, he developed a comprehensive website about Scheuermann's disease, which is scheuermannsdisease.org, now sdfund.org, to help those affected by the disease. And this was the first step in the development of his charity. Later, Mr. Strout joined forces with the Pittsburgh Foundation in creating the first charity of its kind in the world, the Scheuermann's Disease Fund, sdfund.org, solely dedicated to help those affected by the spinal deformity. It was founded for one purpose, to help those affected by Scheuermann's and its long-term effects. Doug is a native Pittsburgh, having graduated from Baldwin High School and the University of Pittsburgh, Jonestown, with degrees in finance and international studies. Doug's professional career spanned over 25 years with organizations including Mellon Bank, Bank One, Bear Stearns, and Dimensional Fund Advisors. To learn more about Scheuermann's disease and to become an advocate or ambassador in helping spread the word about its life-changing effects, please go to sdfund.org and you can truly make a difference. So I want to welcome Doug to the stage. And Doug, I'm going to turn the platform over to you. And I will share my screen.
There you go. Thanks, Jeff. Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see everyone that was able to get on to see the presentations this afternoon. I've been working like Jeff said, I was in financial services for 25 years. But you never know where life takes you. What had happened was when I was in disability, I just determined I didn't know what to do. I had always been working and been a part of the society my whole life, and all of a sudden, everything I worked for was gone. So I want to talk about what it was like to go through that, and the process of opening and starting and founding the charity. So if we can go maybe to the next screen. When I was diagnosed with Sherman's at 17, it was actually the coach of my track team that found it. He sent me to a doctor. I wasn't able to do some of the exercises that you had to do to throw the javelin, which I was doing. So I couldn't do those exercises, and he said, Doug, you need to go to the doctor. So my doctor diagnosed me with Sherman's disease at 17. I was done growing, and eventually what had happened, over time, my mobility decreased, pain increased significantly, and it went to the point where I was at a gym one time exercising. I was done, and I couldn't feel my hands. It took me about a half an hour to be able to grab the key to unlock the locker door. So what had happened is, due to the secondary effects of Sherman's, I had severe spinal constriction in my cervical spine. I had lost the use of my hands and 20% of the strength in my right arm. So I had emergency fusion surgery, and that was just one of 5 in a 3-year period. Okay, maybe next, Jeff. Think about this. I mean, your whole life you're doing one thing, and I was always in financial services to help people. So when these surgeries began, I always thought I was going to go back to work, but I had to learn about the disease that was affecting me. I had to know why it was. what was going to happen, down the road as I aged. And I started to research this. I started to read Sherman's research. There was nothing out there. This is in 2008. So there was ample time for information to somebody develop some type of comprehensive website. There was absolutely nothing. I was scared to death. So I started a blog. I gathered all the information that I could, and I started a story of what I was going through, all my life experiences. And the next thing you know, I start getting all these messages from all over the world. Okay, can you help me? Where do I go to find a doctor? My doctor doesn't believe me. I need to know more information about it. So what I did is I met with an organization. It's a philanthropic organization in Pittsburgh, and they helped me develop a charitable fund. Well, we grew so fast that didn't last very long, and we became our own 501c3 pretty quickly. So I got the domains, built the website. A friend of mine who helped me with that. We have a graphic designer who volunteers with us, and we are a 100% volunteer charity. All the money, absolutely every dollar that is donated to this organization goes to help others. And I met with one of our board members when we were developing this, and one of the first things I had to get through is none of this is going to help me personally. Reason is my fusions, they're done. But we need to help the people that are out there, and we need to help the people who have not been diagnosed yet. So we've helped people over and over 40 different countries, and I'll go into more detail on this on the 4th, but I wanted you to know that we are a 100% volunteer charity, and we help people in every part of the world. Thanks, Jeff. So what is Sherman's disease? I'm sure you heard of scoliosis and kyphosis as a spinal disease, but Sherman's disease is an actual spinal deformity that forms in adolescence. And if you've ever seen anybody with a hump, like Quasimodo and Hunchback in Notre Dame, he had Sherman's disease. And that Sherman disease is typically during a child's growth spurt, when they are going through before puberty. Excuse me. So when this happens, it's much different than kyphosis or scoliosis because there are actual physical changes to your body. What happens is your vertebrae, typically in the thoracic region between T7 and T8, your thoracic vertebrae grow from a brick to a wedge shape. You also have the plates of those vertebrae, they become porous. For reasons, it used to be they thought it was an interruption in blood flow. Now they're looking at the cartilage, some type of problem with the cartilage. But anyway, what happens is the disc material gets sucked into the vertebrae and absorbs into the vertebrae, and they're called Schmorl's nodes. So that reduces the disc height that you have between those vertebrae. Another thing that happens is your anterior foraminal ligament for your spinal ligament, that thickens. So you have all these three factors that pull your hip and your hips and your heads out of your body. So what does a person with Sherman's disease look like? Jeff, the next one. This is a surgery. This is before and after surgery. If you look to the left, this is what a typical person with Sherman's disease will look like. You see the accentuated kyphosis and the accentuated lordosis. The kyphosis at the top and the swing and the lordosis at the bottom. That is a typical Sherman's disease patient. Now, after surgery, you can see what needs to be corrected. You may go from a 90%, maybe that's an 80 or 90% curvature, down to a 45 degree curvature. Average is about 40 to 45. So this is just seeing a before and after. Okay, Jeff. Now, why is it so important for early detection? In adolescence, while a person's bones are still pliable and they're still growing, that is the only time when non-invasive treatments like bracing and exercise can be effective. But that is the only time before that time period you can use a therapy. It's called Schroth therapy that involves bracing and a certain exercise regimen. You can have a child, what you just saw, that big curvature, those can most of the times be treated just with non-invasive treatments. Now, that is only until these child's bones stop growing, because they're still pliable and malleable. So next, Jeff. After a person's bones stop growing, there's only one effective treatment option. That's surgery. So when you're talking about spinal deformity checks or spine checks, many people feel that it is done in school. Well, what they do in school, and it's not a national directive anymore, which you may not know, it's by state. I'll go over that more on the 4th. But by state, they have to determine if spinal deformity screenings still go on in school. Now, what happens is sometimes the doctors think it's being done in school. Sometimes the parents think it's being done by the doctor. So many children are missed. So what you're finding now is the treatment or the spinal screening process for children in school is just for scoliosis. That's it. There is no screening process for kyphosis, which means, typically scoliosis and kyphosis can be treated non-invasively. However, Sherman's disease, with those physiological changes, cannot be changed by treatment, like by non-invasive treatment. It's only surgery. So we've been working with our state senator and the Department of Health, director of Department of Health in Pennsylvania, to add kyphosis to the scoliosis screening process. We're still working on it because you have to go through protocols and there are so many rule changes, but we're still in that process, and we have a potential to roll this out nationally. So next up, Jeff. Remember those physiological changes, and I want to explain what happens to the child or the teen when this happens. When this curvature starts happening, it throws your head and your hips out over your body. So you're looking at your hips as this accentuated curvature increases. The more the head goes out and the more the hips go out, the less effective the discs are. The discs are the body shock absorbers and the spine shock absorbers. And there is a beautifully perfect machine. You have the vertebrae, the discs, and they act as shock absorbers so as you walk. Now what happens though, when your head and your hips go out of over your body, that throws that process all off. So what happens when your head goes forward at least 1 inch? It's like an additional 10 pounds your neck is supporting. And you'll see some children there, or some adolescents, their head is out like 4 or 5 inches, as well as their hips. The higher the accentuated curvature, the more the hips and the head go out. So when you see that happen, and there is a significant pressure on the cervical discs and on the lumbar discs. So, next. What happens, even before this is being treated, I get calls all the time from people 25, 30, even in their 50s. I've just been diagnosed with Sherman's. I have just found out I have a ton of secondary problems. So all these things all these secondary effects, all these health issues can happen to a person. These are just some of them. As people age with Sherman's, you can have early onset of DDD, degenerative disc disease, compression fractures, osteoarthritis of the spine, bone spurs. You can get spinal cord impression, sciatica, severe long-term chronic pain, migraines. You've got foraminal stenosis, which is very painful. You have the facet deterioration. You have all these different heart and lung problems. Heart and lung problems are significant problems, because what happens is when your curvature gets larger, it compresses the chambers of your heart and your lungs and pushes things together. One of the side effects of Sherman's is elongated lungs, which is another problem, because as people with elongated lungs are more prone to pneumonia. So it's very difficult for a lot of people with Sherman's to breathe. You have neuropathies and through your limbs, severe sleep apnea. These are, by the way, these all have happened to me. This is a typical laundry list of people. Something that happens to people, health issues that happen to people who have not been diagnosed with Sherman's disease until later in life. Okay, unfortunately, there is not one comprehensive long-term study to note the secondary effects for people that live with Sherman's in old age. Not one comprehensive study. There's one from Finland, but only it happens to the Finnish people. So we need a comprehensive study that will include people from multiple cultures, multiple locations, multiple countries. And we're working on that right now with Sanford Research in their courts division. So I'll talk to you a little bit about that in the fourth. And then next one, Jeff. So I wanted to explain a little bit more on the fourth, what we're going to do. I just wanted to give you a taste of what is Sherman's disease, and it's sometimes called Sherman's kyphosis. And we have a big problem out there. A lot of doctors who base their decisions on research studies feel that Sherman's disease is an adolescent disease. It's benign in the old age, and that couldn't be further from the truth. We're also finding that the effects really don't determine by the degree of accentuated curvature. It's the location of the curvature that is just as important. The lower the curvature, the lower the apex of the curvature, the more problems a person has. So that is why early detection is so important. Before puberty hits, let's get this done in the schools and the screening processes, so that I can just go away, because all of these people, everybody is caught before they go into old age. That is our goal. Our goal is to work for early detection. Our goal is to help people who are affected by this, and also help better communicate with the medical community on the actual problems that we experience later in life. And we're doing all of those things to the best of our abilities. And like I said, we've helped people in 40 different countries. I'll give you an idea of what we do. We send out free of charge care packages to people that include a t-shirt, wristbands that have Sherman's disease and SD fund on them. We send them 2 pamphlets, and those pamphlets are great to explain to your personal support group what you're going through. And we send masks out, filter masks. We send these out for free, and we've sent about 600 internationally. So we've been trying to go on a grassroots level. We're also going on a governmental and legislative level, and hopefully we'll be on a global level. We have support groups in Australia. We have support groups in the UK, and we have support groups, and these are via Facebook, in the United States. We all work together. So we are still working together to get these things taken care of. And we hope, I'll go into these further on the 4th, and a lot of the things that we've done. So, but this was just my message, is I'm trying to understand what it is, how we can help, and please don't anybody hesitate to contact me should you have any questions. Thanks, Jeff.
Well, Doug, thank you. I can tell you that this one hits really close. You have some of these presentations that you watch that, but your presentation obviously hits home for us here in this household, because our 12-year-old has Sherman's disease, and so we had talked about that before with it, and we're fortunate that Cambria's situation was really kind of different maybe than some, in that she was on growth hormone. So we actually had to decide when we were going to start puberty and that adolescent stage that was there. And this is when so she hadn't really started, so her bones are not fused yet with it. But for somebody that is not in that, maybe we got lucky, or, we're aggressive. You didn't find us out until like you were 17, but for people who are watching with it in younger kids. What are some of the things you can look for that's easily seen, or what should you push for?
Good question, Jeff. You look for, if you're always telling your child to sit up straight, you notice their hamstrings are very tight. A lot of times if they bend over and try and touch their knees, the hamstrings tighten significantly. If they have problems carrying anything like book bags on their back, if they're in pain, the most common denominator, the most common symptom when children go and are bound to have Sherman's is pain. So you'll be surprised at the number and percentage of children that have back problems. And these back problems are from carrying too heavy backpacks, from looking down at their phones all the time. However, with Sherman's disease, if you look at while they're sitting to eat dinner, or if they're just sitting in a chair and you see a hump in the back, that is something and let's say in gym class or PE class, they can't do some exercises, as was found in me. Those are some of the things to look for in your children. Again, look at the tight hamstrings. Now, the only way to determine if the child has this is through an X-ray. So having the X-ray, just getting the child's X-ray, that is 90% of what you have to do of getting this determined, because you can have somebody test for it by looking at them, but it has to be some type of image. So going to a GP can then refer to your pediatric spine surgeon. Earlier the better, Jeff.
So, another question we had is that, for this newborn screening, how would you detect it, the newborn screening process with it? Can you see it that early in a newborn? Can you see those things there? Or is it during, you said, you mostly notice it during that growth spurt. How many, with that newborn screening process, how do we get that in there?
That's a really good question. There is something called idiopathic Sherman's kyphosis, Sherman's disease, and that is through birth. It's pretty rare, but it does happen. And that would need to be determined by the doctor, the baby's doctor, and they'll be able to take X-rays of the spine. There's not a genetic component yet that we've been able to determine. We're working on it. There are some studies out there that are trying to find it. Now, it tends to be handed down through heredity. We're finding that they've done studies with twins. Both twins typically have it. It tends to be handed down through the male in the family, through that side of the body. And what happens is, if we can determine the genetic component, we will be able to determine the idiopathic or Sherman's disease. Now, with the being idiopathic, more than likely just going to be the baby's doctor's identification. We don't have a genetic marker yet. However, if you go to NIH's GUARD site, it's General and Information Studies for Rare Diseases. We are under there, and there are some genetic components identified on that website. We also have some genetic research studies on Sherman's on our website as well, under articles and research. But we're still looking for that ticking marker, which we find that idiopathic would be easier to identify. That's a very good question.
Yeah, got one more here that came in, is that so many of the rare diseases, rare disorders, we're noticing crossover, with it, that there's multiple with it. With Scheuermann's, do you see any type of crossover there with other diseases, disorders that people could be on the lookout for?
Excellent point. We are working with, as mentioned earlier, we're working with Stanford Research, and Stanford Research in their CORDS division, which they help small charities, orphan diseases, develop questionnaires that can be used for research. So we are in the process, we have a committee, and we're developing a list of questions that people in our groups will be able to answer and provide to researchers, that they can then identify some of the comorbidities or the co-problems with Sherman's. We do find some Marfans. We also find some Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. The connective tissue. We find connective tissue disorders sometimes. Those two are primary that we found so far. I have a list of those. Some of the other things that we have identified. I'm trying to remember where those are, but you may be able to find some. But the idiopathic is the one that really concerns me. Is it does happen. So be on the lookout for your child's spine as an infant. It's really hard to tell. However, it does happen. I'm trying to find the piece for you, but there are a number of problems we've identified that go with Sherman's, and we're not sure if it's genetic, we're not sure if it's hereditary, we're not sure if it's a really true morbidity problem. So yes, those are the ones that we've identified.
And then another question, more about international collaboration. What do you think is the key for international collaboration? You know, we are, whereas we had kind of a disconnect at some point in time because of, you know, we didn't have the technology. You had to get on a plane or a boat and travel. But with that international piece, what do you see now is a key to collaboration, or what have you found, I guess, is a key to collaboration?
Sure. Social media has been fantastic for us. We and I tell you, we've worked with people in 40 different countries. We have 2 Facebook groups, large Facebook groups, that are for Sherman's disease and Sherman's kyphosis patients. We also have one in Australia, a smaller one in Australia that is really New Zealand and Australia. Then we have one for the UK. Now I'm an administrator for the one in the UK, as well as for the one in one of them in the United States. So what we're able to do in collaborating is we find people from Spain to people to Dubai, to every country in Europe, to Ukraine. We've been able to, via social media, identify problems and how this is passed down. We also helped set up the first Sherman's disease and Sherman's kyphosis group in Kenya. We work with Kenyan Scoliosis Foundation. So we also piggyback with a number of scoliosis foundations as well. So, and they're through different countries. So we've been able to, I think social media for us has been the biggest way for us to proliferate, for cross-pollinate the information that we have. And sending this information out individually, we send these pieces out to doctors as well. But the other thing that we've done, Jeff, is we've developed the first international doctor database. This doctor database being international, like I said, some doctors do not treat Sherman's patients truly as Sherman's patients with a pain problem. A lot of doctors still feel that Sherman's is a juvenile adolescent disease, and I can't tell you what wrong that is. So what we have done is we get referrals from people who see doctors. They send the doctors to us, and we add those doctors into a database. So others can use these doctors for their excellent treatment of not only the disease, but also the people with disease. So we have hundreds of doctors throughout the world who can be identified, and the patients can go to and be treated like a patient with Sherman's. There are too many times where people will say, the doctor said it's not from Sherman's, it's something else, and just kick them out of the office. That's another way we need to educate doctors through our upcoming questionnaire and research information. So 2 things. What we've done is we've used social media to go international. We also have worked with other foundations and other spinal deformity organizations. And we also developed that international doctor database. So those are the 3 ways that going internationally has helped us.
Outstanding. Well, Doug, thank you so much for taking this time. today. And again, you have another presentation that's coming on the 4th, and that'll be even more informative with that I'm going to encourage everyone to please attend and hear about what is going on with SD Fund. So looking forward to that conversation. Thank you so much again today, sir, for your time. It has been fantastic. I mean, just absolutely fantastic.
Thank you. And if you get a chance, we're going to start off with a video on the 4th at 2:00. If you get a chance, you need to watch this video. There are some brave, beautiful people in this video that I think you'll enjoy. So thank you, Jeff, so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. So coming up now at the top of the hour here, we're going to have two things. There is a breakout session with a group called Harmony for Hope that you can find out about what their organization is doing through helping to cope with rare disease through actual music. And then we also have a panel discussion that is going to take place, and it's a collaborative approach to treatment where we have Dr. Wendy Chung, and who is from Columbia University. We have Luke Rosen and Stephanie Fisher will be a part of that. So at the top of the hour at 1:00, please join us for those sessions. Thank you all again. It's been great being able to do this. Hope everyone has a great rare disease day so far. There's more to come.